Ciao guys, so this video is going to be all about the 10 essential items that I'm going to be taking on the trails and into the mountains, whether it's for a long run or a race. There's going to be certain equipment that you're going to be needing to take with you. It's really important to make sure you stay safe in the mountains. Obviously we're here for a good time, but we want to be here for a long time as well. So some of the gear that you can take with you is going to ensure your safety in the mountains and make sure you have a good time as well. And so everyone's obviously different. Everyone feels the cold differently. Everyone eats different amounts of food and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's making sure that you personally have enough equipment and the right equipment in your bag to make sure that you can stay safe in the mountains. And so where you can practice things like this is during training runs when you're in a bit more of a controlled environment. So then when you do get to race day or you do get to your big long adventure in the mountains, you can have the peace of mind knowing that you've got all of the equipment that you need. First things first, you're going to need a pack to carry all of the gear that you're going to need to have a good time in the mountains, to stay safe, to take your fuel, hydration, all of that kind of thing. And so for me, for a long time now, I've been using the CamelBak Apex Pro. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I like this vest. First sort of reason, I guess, on the front here, big sort of command center on either side. You've got space up here for all of your, sort of essentials when you're out on the trails and in the mountains. You can be putting mobile phone in there, any nutrition, some of your kind of more essential items if the weather's going to be changing as well. And then the back compartment here, as this vest was designed, decided to have a big diagonal zip along the back. One of the main reasons being while racing, it just makes the whole process of coming into aid stations and having your mandatory gear checked a whole lot quicker, and also just in general getting gear in and out of the pack definitely made a lot easier by having that diagonal zip. The thing I like about the Apex Pro is it feels kind of minimal enough that you don't feel like you're taking a big pack out into the mountains, but then it has got the capacity to carry all of the essentials. First up we have hydration, and so here I've got two 500ml soft flasks. Depending on the situation or kind of what you're needing from your hydration, sometimes that's going to be plain water, sometimes it might be electrolytes, and then also sometimes you might have liquid calories. Yeah, for me when I'm out there on the trails training, I'm always carrying 2 if not 3 or 4 soft flasks full with water, and that way I'm always going to make sure that I've got enough to get from one village to another or from sort of one spot to another, and knowing that I'll be able to refill. Next up is nutrition. So depending on how long you're going on for your long run or for your race, you're obviously going to need nutrition to fuel you along the way, and so nutrition for athletes comes in numerous different forms. So we have drink mixes, there's things like purees, obviously gels, and then you have things like chews, also some normal kind of solid food as well. Normally it's a really good idea, again depending on how long you're going for, but to mix up some different options, and so you're not just taking one thing for the whole time, because it doesn't matter how much you like a certain product, you are going to get sick of it at some point in time. So having really good variety when you're out there on the trails is really important. A pretty good general rule of thumb is to aim for 1 gram of carbohydrate per kilo of body weight as a basic start point. It's important to test it in a sort of wide range of settings as well. When and where possible, test it out in hot conditions, test it out in cold conditions, just to make sure that your body's going to be able to tolerate certain things, making sure that you're going to be having plenty of variety, because obviously with some of the longer races, when you're out there for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus hours, it starts to get pretty challenging to get food in and to keep it in, and so practicing that in training will get the gut used to sort of tolerating what it's going to need to on race day. Like a lot of things in life, it's best to speak to the experts to get help on. And as I've said to athletes for years and years now, there's no point doing all of the physical training, preparing with all the volume that you can be doing with your running, and then not having a good plan of attack come race day with your nutrition and hydration. So third up on the list of essentials for heading onto the trails or into the mountains, so we have our waterproof layers. Unless I'm going for a really short run in an area that I know really well, I'm pretty much always going to take at least a waterproof jacket with me. Sometimes the waterproof jacket is going to be used as a waterproof jacket, and so in that sense you want to make sure that the jacket is fully seam sealed, obviously making sure the jacket has a hood as well. And the other time that I'm going to be using the waterproof jacket, but in a different way, is sometimes when I'm in the mountains and the conditions might just be really windy, it might be cold but not wet. And so the waterproof jacket also doubles up as a wind jacket as well. And then the second option, which I'm going to be taking, especially on the longer runs, and especially so come race day when it's part of the mandatory equipment, is a pair of waterproof over trousers. And also some key things for those with the waterproof over trousers, obviously making sure that they're fully seam sealed just like the jacket. And then the other one as well, as you can see on the bottom here, this has got a zip basically from about here sort of just below the knee down to the ankle, and so that makes getting the waterproof pants on and off really easy, which when you're up at 2,500 meters in a race, little things like that make a big difference. So number 4 on the list of essentials heading out into the trails or into the mountains is a mobile phone. And also then having an external battery pack. Obviously great for taking photos and selfies, but then also as far as safety goes, having a mobile phone on you, able to make any calls or messages that you're going to be needing to send. And the other real key part of having a mobile phone on you, especially when you're in new areas, especially in the bigger mountains as well, is using mobile phone for navigation. And so that can be really important just to make sure that you're staying on track, you're staying safe. And then the other key part of having the external battery pack is then being able to charge your phone, because using apps and using your phone obviously drains the battery. Number 5 on the list of essentials for heading out on the trails and into the mountains is going to be some warm gear to keep the extremities warm. The 3 kind of key pieces of equipment here, number 1, we've got a beanie. So this is just a merino beanie to keep the head warm when the weather starts to get a bit colder. The second one, I have some arm sleeves here as well. And that just means that I can regulate my body temperature really easily. I can pull them up when I'm colder. If I start to get a little bit warm, I can slide them down. So that's a really useful piece of kit as well. And then the third kind of item in this sort of lineup is having some gloves. And so keeping extremities warm, hands, head, and obviously feet as well. So number 6 on the list of essentials, we have a head torch. Nowadays with technology, head torches are super lightweight, super versatile as well. And so anytime I'm heading on a longer run, it's a really good idea to have a head torch in your pack. Number 7 on the list of essentials taken into the mountains is a warm either base layer or mid layer top. This is just a really lightweight sort of fleece layer, and so basically putting this on in between either a t-shirt and a shell layer is going to keep you nice and warm, and the combination with the waterproof jacket, it's going to block out the wind, so then you'll be nice and toasty on the inside. Number 8 on the list of essentials heading into the mountains for a long run or a race is going to be hiking poles. And so hiking poles are really useful for when you're going obviously uphill. If you want to learn a little bit more about how to use the poles, using them uphill and also some downhill techniques, check out my previous video on how to use poles. So number 9 on the list of essentials. First up, we've got an emergency bivy bag. These are a really crucial piece of kit. They're a lot more durable than just an emergency space blanket. And so if the weather was to get really bad, or you were to injure yourself, one of these emergency bivy bags could literally save your life. And also attached onto the end there is a whistle, which is also good if any search and rescue people are trying to find you. Number 10 on the list of essentials for heading into the mountains and on the trails is going to be a waterproof dry bag. And so this dry bag here is 5 litres. And so one thing I've always found is there is no point having all of the gear and no way to keep the gear dry. There's going to be different ways for you to be able to carry the gear that you need to carry. Like for example, some days and some races, I'm just going to be wearing one of the waist belts. But in the sort of instance of going for a long run, doing a longer race, I'm going to be using a bigger vest with more capacity. But we're just going to go through now basically how to pack your pack. First thing that goes into my dryer bag is normally going to be my warm layer. And so whether that's a polypropylene top or in this case, a lightweight fleece, I'm basically making sure that that's packed nice and flat, because basically this nice flat part is going to be against my back. And so anything that I put on top of this isn't going to therefore dig into my back. That goes in there nice and flat. And then the next thing that I'll be packing, probably some of the essentials, some of the stuff that I'm probably going to be unlikely to need unless something bad happens. And so I'm still going to have easy enough access to these, but it's just not going to be quite as quick as others. They're going to go on top of that mid-weight layer. Next up into the dry bag, we're going to put the spare battery pack and the head torch. And so they're just going to sit on top of the mid-weight layer as well. How big you are, how small you are, all of your gear is going to vary in size. But basically we're trying to get it as kind of small as possible into the dry bag, and then making sure that you're pushing all of the air out of the dry bag so we can get that rolled up nice and tight. Just inside the main compartment here, there's a divider. So the divider is big enough that you can fit pretty decent sized items in behind it, and then that divider actually holds it quite close to your back. And so when you are bouncing around up and down on the trails, you're going to get really minimal movement. So the dry bag is just going to slide in there just like that. So whenever I'm going to be using poles in the mountains or on the trails, I'm basically going to be using a pole quiver which is attached to my backpack. So this makes getting the poles off the pack and back onto the pack nice and easy. And the really cool thing with this one here as well is that this one actually detaches really easily from the vest. So if I am ever doing a training run or a race where I'm not going to be using poles and I do want to go maybe a little bit more minimal, I can take the pole quiver off and then it's not going to be any hassle. So now we're moving around to the front of the pack and everything that goes on up the front here. And so first up, I'll put the soft flasks in the front pockets, one on each side. They're exactly the same, and so the flasks, the size of these pouches is really good, so they slide in really easily. On the top of each of the pouches, there's this elastic band. It's really nice. It hooks over the top of the flask just under the lid there. And so moving just a little bit further down on the command center, just below where the soft flasks are held, so we actually have 3 pockets on the front here. For me, normally I'm going to be utilizing these pockets for nutrition, and so that way I can sort of break up different hours worth of nutrition on the go. So I know that maybe on the right hand side there's 1 hour of nutrition, and then on the left hand side there's another hour, and so that way I know that I need to make sure I finish one of the sides per hour to make sure that I'm getting in the carbohydrates that I need for training and racing. The way that I pack my jacket, basically just to try and pack it as small as possible, is basically sort of folding in half, bring the arms up towards the bottom of the jacket there, just rolling that up as tight as possible towards the hood. And because then the idea behind it is that if you roll it up tight enough and then slide it into the hood, it's going to make a nice kind of small package that you can then slide into the back part of the vest. And so there's sort of like these kind of kangaroo pouches on either side here. I'll slide the waterproof jacket into the side there, and then that way that stays there. The last piece of equipment that I make sure I have easy access to, mobile phone. Most of the time, to be honest, it's for taking photos, but as mentioned earlier, it's also your kind of safety and backup if you are needing to contact any emergency services. And so normally for me, just one of these big zips on the front here, sliding mobile phone in, and then that's not going to go anywhere. If the weather is going to be bad and wet, I'll definitely utilize this waterproof pocket on the top, so that's deep enough to hold the mobile phone as well. So thanks for watching, guys, and make sure importantly as well you check the race websites for the mandatory gear for any race that you're going to be doing. It's never worth saving a couple of grams in the sake of safety. And for me personally, I'm building up now for the OCC in a few weeks' time at the end of August, so training is absolutely full steam at the moment, preparing for that race, and so look forward to seeing you guys next week. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and also if there's any questions that you guys have or any videos that you guys would like to see covering any topics at all, just let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next week.